Welcome back, everyone, to OpenLine. We are talking with Forrest Sanders, News Channel 5 reporter, solo video journalist. He's playing some of his reports. We're getting a behind-the-scenes look at how the stories you see on Channel 5 get to be on Channel 5, what goes into it. And nobody can better explain what Forrest does than Forrest, because you're the only one. You're out there all by yourself, putting all these things together. Played two great stories. We're going to play another one. I want to briefly bring in a call here. Wilma.
Hi, Wilma.
Hey, y'all. I just wanted to talk about the difference between you and Forrest. Forrest is a features story guy, and you're an investigative reporter. Mr. Hall, you need a cameraman in case you accidentally, interview somebody that turns out to be an axe killer.
Which has happened, yes. That's
remember
exactly
that
right.
story?
I do remember that story.
So if the cameraman wasn't there, we probably never would have found the body.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, Mr. Sanders, you almost got me on camera here quite a few years. It's been over 5 years ago.
What story was that?
It was when a president had came to town, and I was standing there talking to a little boy about presidents and stuff, and what an occasion it is to see any president when they come to town.
Okay.
And how lucky we were, yada, yada, yada. And I turned around, and there you stood.
Okay.
And I want to take this moment to apologize to you because I was a little pissed off at the time with some media, and I was rude to you, and I refused your interview. But you did interview the little boy.
Okay.
And I appreciated that because I know you're good at what you do. Because
Thank you.
Whenever I hear that you're coming up, I always run for the Kleenex. I don't want to get caught without it.
That's nice.
So,
Thank you.
And one last thing, do you have a son? Because I was watching Miss Coleman on her show here last week, and she had a woman on who does videos for kids where they develop their own stories and they shoot these features and these little movies. And I went to the library and went to the website, and there is a child on there where him and another little boy are sitting at a news desk. And I'm like, is that Forrest Tucker's son? It is Forrest. Is it Forrest Sanders?
It's Sanders.
I always call you Forrest Tucker.
That's okay.
But anyway, I wish you would accept my apology. I didn't mean to be rude to you. I was ignorant and just judging the media overall because I knew when I walked away I owed you an apology.
No, Wilma,
thanks.
I can assure you over the course of about 5 years, there have been other people who have turned me down for interviews, so it is completely fine. And no, I don't have a son, so I don't know who this this little boy is, but
well, that's
sounds like he's a very dapper kid.
I think it's harder for all of us to get interviews, even you sometimes, and that's so nice of Wilma to kind of say that in that moment.
It's very nice.
You know, that she was frustrated with the media at the time and didn't want to answer.
It's 5 years ago. Would it be like it's
so it's all okay.
It's literally like hundreds and hundreds of stories ago. So I don't remember it, but thank you, Wilma. That's really sweet.
So I want to play another story of yours. Sure. This is. Why don't you set it up?
because I've been setting them up so well so far. I don't like spoiling anything, so here's the story. Watch it.
Perfect.
Being small paper, I do a little bit of everything. Fixing the front door, and I love learning people's stories because everybody has a story.
The words written by Dave Taylor tell the stories of people, of the little city of Hawesville, Kentucky. And it's all here in the Hancock Clarion. It's the good stuff. He's the features guy. Girlfriend Jamie D. Hunt started this scrapbook to fill with Dave's columns.
And then this was your first one without a picture, and I said those don't get enough shares on Facebook, so I'm his manager.
Dave never wrote about himself here. It was always about the people of Hawesville. But a day in April changed the columns.
I began having trouble swallowing, and that's when they discovered that I had stage 4 esophageal cancer. They moved my liver and my stomach. I had one moment of kind of despair near the beginning. It was just the realization the cancer wasn't going away. It wasn't quitting. It was trying to kill me all day, every day.
Then Dave thought, as someone who tells stories, who's living this, he could do something to help people. He could start a new column, What I Learned from Dying. The columns include What kind of old man would I have been? How to live intentionally. It is well with my soul.
I've had several people come up and tell me that they've had family members who've died of cancer, and they always wondered what they were going through, but they never would say. So it gives them a little perspective on, what their loved ones went through. What's important when you're about to die should be just as important when you're living.
Well, it was a huge leap of faith for me to buy a scrapbook. I honestly didn't know, will I get to put 2 weeks of columns in here and will the rest remain empty? I just did it, and I love every week cutting out his columns. And this one was you talking about all your weight loss and how you'd weighed 265 and then you weighed 187. But yeah, so this was supposed to be Everyone Needs a Jamie, and he wrote this beautiful column. It was just all about me.
And so Dave decided to ask a question to the person who's been here through all of this.
I'm pretty convinced I wouldn't be here if not for her, and I would have been gone a long time ago.
Since April, Dave's undergone difficult chemo treatments. Neuropathy in his fingers made it harder to type, and he wasn't sure he'd make it through a week in September. But the column continues.
The week that he was in the hospital, basically in a coma, I wrote the column for him from my perspective. I felt in that moment Dave was in a burning building of cancer. Maybe I couldn't extract him, but I could sit in the fire with him and he wouldn't be alone.
Yeah.
I have chosen almost every second of every day since April 27th to love him without fear. And I hope you have surprises as uplifting as Dave has been to me. While I wish that my scrapbook was filled with all the adventures that we get to have, my journey with Dave and our love is different. I love that scrapbook very much. I'm very proud of him.
In Hawesville, Kentucky, I'm Forrest Sanders.
A lot about that a lot of these things have interesting stories.
Wow.
I know. I love that little couple, Dave and Jamie. And there is an update to this story. The two of them have since been married, and Dave is still writing those columns for the Hancock Clarion up in Kentucky.
That's good. How did that story come to your...
So, our Two Americas segments that we have been running here at News Channel 5. There is a reporter who does those who you may be familiar with. His name is Matt Pearl, and he's a friend of mine. He is also a solo video journalist, and he heard about this story and he passed it over to me, which was very, very kind of him to do so. But Matt is based out of Atlanta. He does travel all over the place, but he knew that this story was closer to where I was, and so he passed it over to me, and I was happy to go meet Dave because, as was mentioned in the story, Dave is a features reporter, just like I am, just like Matt is. Mm-hmm. And I think the trick for Dave, and I think that I would feel the same way about it, is that when you are a features reporter, you're not used to talking about yourself. You're used to doing stories about everybody else.
And it's so interesting, you're not in a lot of your stories. Like, we don't see pictures of you.
Right.
And you don't do stand-ups and that kind of thing.
I'll do them on occasion if it's a story about an issue or something like that. But in this case, I feel I would be invading into Dave's story. I want this to be completely about Dave and Jamie. What would I have done in the middle of that story? It would have added nothing. And that's important to me, that I got to do what's best for the story. This isn't the Forrest show here or anything. I want to make sure that we're telling Dave and Jamie's story the best way that we can. And honestly, I would have taken away from that story had I actually been in it.
Because
to focus on them.
People are involved in it, and to see maybe a reporter does take you out of it, and you're saying you don't want to take them out of the story.
I think there are other pieces that it makes all the sense in the world to have a reporter presence in it.
Right.
A reporter can come in and really help out with the explaining of a complex issue. Of a complex investigation, but that's different from a very personal story where it's so personal and somebody is letting you into their life and letting you have their trust.
All right,
I wanted them to.
We have to go to break. All right, we will come back, wrap everything up right after this.